Hello, welcome to another edition of Club Shay Shay. I am your host and proprietor. And guys, I'm super excited to have this guy for a conversation and a drink at Club Shay Shay today. He really doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to try anyway, because bear with me. He had a 22-year MLB career. He was a 13-time All-Star. He was a 10-time Gold Glove winner. He won the 1997 AL MVP. He led the AL in RBIs in 1997. He was a 4-time AL home run leader. 630 career home runs, 7th on the all-time list. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a member of the MLB AllCentury Team. Ken Griffey Jr.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life.
Griffey, what's up, bro?
No, man, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I love that backdrop. Do you have them all in there?
Yes. Well, okay. When we built this house, there's only room for 9, so I put my very first one up top.
He left out. He left out.
No. See him right there?
Yeah.
All right. And see what happened was, and I'm not good now. We didn't realize how tall they were.
Right.
You know, when I first got my first one, I opened it up, and then the other 9 I kept in a box because we were in between moving.
Right.
And then I said, all right, what we're gonna do is put them in a display case. But then it got too big, and then it looked like the wall unit that ate Dallas. So I was like, let's shrink it down. And so my wife made sure everything was fine, and she put everything together. And I was like, all right, that's perfect, except we're missing one. And she was like, what? I go, the one. And so we put it out top. It's because people want to look at it and really get close to it and sometimes touch it. So they can touch it.
So do you have all your memorabilia stored in your office? So you have a place to it. You can see like your Silver Slugger Awards, your RBI type. Do you have all that stuff?
No, it's we have some down in storage.
Right.
But for the most part, my dad wasn't a very big collector and have stuff showing because, it was his job. So they dedicated one room for me. And it happened to be my office with a door closed. But I got some stuff downstairs. You know how it is. I got some stuff downstairs. I got the Jackie Robinson jersey. I got my jersey where I wore 42 for the first time in '97, and the Reds 42. But I try to have some history of all sports. My wife's favorite 2 football players are Derek Thomas, and Sue. And I was like, how did you get Sue? He was like, he just mean. I was like,
he's so opposite of me.
Yeah, I was like, he's so nice when you see him off the field. And she was like, I know, that's why I like him. I'm like,
Griffey, as I'm reading off those numbers, the 22 years, the All-Star, the Gold Gloves, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? Probably longevity. When I was growing up, my dad was like, hey, there's 2 sides of the ball, offense and defense.
Right.
And you got to play both. The guys who play both are going to be there for a while. You don't want to be the guy that, is a flash in the pan, all of a sudden he's got 2 years and you're like, where's he going? Or where's he been? So I probably take more pride in my defense than my offense. Only because defense, you could show more excitement. Sometimes we don't see the excitement. I mean, I tell everybody, there's a fine line between excitement and showing somebody up.
Right.
And they don't understand that. You see the kids now, they do certain things.
They taking selfies, they bat flipping, they throwing the bat out of the camera. You can't.
Well, nah, we used to get drilled for that. I was talking to Wade Boggs one year, and he was like, hey, man, how many times you get hit? I was like, I don't know. So we looked at the numbers. He got hit like 22 times in 22 years. I got hit 82 times. I was like, that ain't fair.
So You said you took more pride in your defense than your offense, but you had some injuries because you were crashing into the wall, into the kingdom. If you had it to do over again, would you change anything about the way you played? You might have got 25 years.
No, because then people wouldn't respect how I played.
Okay.
And I think that's the thing is when you get hurt on the field doing something that you love, and you know that injuries are part of the game, you don't sign up going, I hope I don't get hurt.
Right.
You see this day in and day out, especially in your sport.
Right.
You see it day in and day out. But for me as a center fielder, it's one of those things. I got about a 12-year shelf life. If you look at the greatest center fielders of all time, after about 12, 13 years, they sort of break down, and because everything hit to them is fair. And we have this mechanism that says it's either me or the ball, and I want to win. Right. And if you run into a wall, you just run into a wall, and you can't be a what if player. What if I would have not ran? What if I wouldn't have done this? What if I wouldn't have done that? Would I still have this? Would I still have that? Then people in the stands go, well, he's not hustling. He's not doing what, know. And you've never heard that. They just wish that I wouldn't have done those things. See, that's the opposite. I wish he would have made more catches. No. We wish he wouldn't have ran into walls. We wish he wouldn't have done that. And that's the thing, is that's what I take pride in, is that people know that when they came there, I was going to give them my all.
When I read these numbers, the 630 or the AllCentury Team, is there something you wish you could add? Like, man, you know what? I wish I had a little more stolen bases, or I would have had what would you add?
Nothing. No, because
you got everything out in 22 years. You got everything Ken Griffey Jr. could have gotten out of MLB.
Yep. Because it's not about MLB. What can they do for me? I went out there to play. I went out there to try to win a championship. It never happened, but I went out there and busted my butt every day. Think about this. I only went down one time. Right. Like on a rehab stint. And that was one day. Right. I actually went down to Tacoma, drove to Tacoma, took 3 at-bats. Now I have a plate and 9 screws in my wrist. Right. I take 3 at-bats. I actually fly myself to Minnesota. The team has no idea that I'm there. You coming? I show up at the ballpark. They look at me like, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm ready." They was like, "Wasn't you supposed to play today?" I was like, "Yeah, I was, but I'm gonna play." And then he said, Lou looked at me and said, "I can't put you down, but tomorrow you in the lineup." And that's the way I am. I mean, I have this thing that, it's my name on the back. It's my career. I'm going to give you everything I have. Right. And the one thing about me is, if you see somebody mad as a kid, right, and you're a bully, what do you keep doing? You keep doing it. Right. Whatever you're doing. So I didn't show any emotion other than laughter, because I didn't, my dad never showed any. Right. My dad was like, hey, nobody has to see you mad. You come home and be mad all you want, but don't do it at the ballpark, because people are going to see that. And they said that I didn't work hard. I start laughing because it's really, you don't stay on the top of your game for as long as I did not working. Right. And
is it because they didn't see you? Because, especially now, everybody is posting something. They're posting their workout on IG, or they're talking about this. It was that because I guess people thought you were just so talented because you played with your dad. You're 19 years old and you're in the majors. And we didn't see it. So he's just God gifted. He's not working. God just blessed him with that talent, and that's it.
No, I'd ride my bike at 2 a.m. Okay. And it would be a 1-3 wetsuit. Okay. Then I would wear a sweatsuit over top of that and a hat, and I'd ride 15 miles in my neighborhood. I had mapped it out. Here's the crazy thing that I do is I map out my routes in the car first. Like, I'm like, okay, I can go here, blah, 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 checking streets. But my dad nobody needs to see you work out. Okay. The people that need to promote you are other people. You don't need to promote yourself. And that's the mentality that I had, is I don't want to talk about me. We could talk about anybody else, but you want to talk about me, and I clam up. And it's only because I grew up in a household where my dad didn't come home talking about him. Look what I did. I didn't realize my dad was a major league ball player actually until like the 8th grade, when I had a Yankee starter jacket on. and a kid came up to me and was like, your dad plays for the Yankee? I was like, yeah. Like, thinking that, everybody's dad had that type of, father. that did something that they love to do. And, you know, I didn't really understand because he never came home and talked about, you know, baseball. It was always, what did we want to do as a kid? And that's how I grew up. So when I teach my kids the same way, because you know, you try to make them as normal as possible.
Right.
I know it's a different world and things are different, and, you know, news travels faster than, you know, when we were growing up. But I just said, hey, you know, it worked. You know, you ain't got to promote yourself. That's somebody else's job.
Did your father push you towards baseball, or was something because he did it and you saw what he did, even though you said it was later that you noticed that he was an MLB player? Was it something that he pushed you towards, because you're like, you know what, I think I can be good at this?
No, my brother played at Ohio State football. My uncle's one of my cousins, Daryl, he broke Tony Dorsett's high school rushing records.
Okay.
I was born a half an hour from Pittsburgh. You know, we are a diehard football family. We didn't come with
okay.
Man, your daddy played. I'm like, yeah, okay. But it didn't, you know, he was like, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. It's not my life, it's yours. When I came to him when I was 14, said, I want to play baseball. He said, okay, here's the things we're going to do. And, you know, when they say that, you know, the advantage that I had growing up is that I could, during spring training, which was the only real time that I was with my dad, on the field, on the backfields, not the main field, but the backfield, because he was early hitting and stuff, I would go shag. So I understood what route to take at 14 to go catch a fly ball from a major league fly ball. So at 14, 15, I could have played in the big leagues defensively because I knew. So that's the advantage I had. Now I still had to learn how to go from aluminum bats to wooden bats. You know, I had a day where my dad flew in. I had an off day. And here's how, you know, most coaches were like, hey, I didn't know you were here. I'll give you, you know, we'll switch. Your son is going to play and you can see your son. I know that you're still playing. Here's an off day. My dad was like, no, whatever, you the coach. So I ended up coming in to pinch hit. Now he just gave me 24 brand new bats.
Okay.
I broke 4 of them on that one plate appearance. he just looked at me and shook it. And I grounded back to the pitcher and he was like, in the stands going like this. I just gave you 4 new bats and you broke, 24 bats and you broke 4 of them. Wow. I broke 80 bats my first year playing pro ball.
What did that have to do? I mean, why were you breaking so many bats?
Because I was an aluminum bat, the barrel like this, a wooden bat, the barrel like that. so you're just not knowing how to swing, you know, with a wooden bat. You know, it's the adjustments that for you guys, you know, the speed of the game.
Right.
We have guys in high school that throw 90, 95 and stuff like that. So the speed of the game, if you can catch up to those guys and they can see it, you're going to be fine. But you guys have that you know, from college to pro, that little bits of learning curve.
Right.
And that's what it is. For you guys, it's the speed of the game. For me, it's learning how to hit with wooden bats.
Was it difficult having obviously it worked to your advantage because, as you said, you got an opportunity to go shag fly balls on the backfield on the back diamonds, and you got an opportunity to track the baseball, so you're catching fly balls from major leaguers. But how difficult was it having a father? And the comparison is going to come. Whether you or he placed them on you or not, they're going to come.
My dad never put any comparisons. He did, and that's the one thing like that I made sure that I did at my house is I didn't compare anybody's records and what they did or what my dad did and things like that. You know,
but the outside pressure? No, I mean in high school.
No,
no,
because outside pressure. If I'm not putting on, if my parents are not putting any pressure on me, somebody outside my 4 walls, they can't say nothing about me. You know, if I came home, and that's how I feel. You know, I tell my kids all the time, and they understand it. And pressure is only something you put on yourself because of outside influence. Right. If I'm not putting any pressure on you, you know, then and your mom or your brothers and sisters, then you can feel pressure when we doing that. But other than that, I wouldn't let I'd be over there like this because it's not. You know, we talk about it all the time with, you know, MJ's kids. Right. You know, I said, you know, there's going to be the comparisons. You know, they can only compare me and you. You know, my dad and me, Trey and me, Tevin and me. Not so much girls. You know, Taryn, she got a pass because it's girls, you know, college basketball. But but she's pretty athletic. Okay, really athletic. So it wasn't really, all they say is that's Ken Griffey Jr.'s daughter.
Right.
Now, but when it comes to being, the testosterone sports,
Yes.
they got to throw comparisons out, which is, it's wrong, because if I tell everybody, my name is Joe Smith, nobody would, said anything. Oh, that's Joe Smith. Not okay. Who's Joe Smith? He's the kid. Okay, go watch him play. I mean, there was it's funny because when Trey was getting recruited, Northwestern came down and said, he went up to Northwestern and he said, coach said, I would offer you, but you need, you should have been 10 pounds heavier. And so I started laughing because he came home and he told me. I was like, all right, no, he just saying that just to blow smoke. And so Trey came home after football because Dr. Phillips was in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, he was helping out with the football team. And that coach was like, the same coach was like, man, who was that? How come you didn't send me him? He was like, that's who we tried to send you last year, but you didn't offer him because he needed to be 10 pounds heavier. Right. So, we start laughing because, they say, the mind game of coaches and some of the things that they say are can destroy some of these kids. Right. And it's tough because, I never caught a football from Trey's quarterback. I never got handed the ball off. It's all that. The only thing that I've done as a dad was get him to a place where, if he wanted to play, to get him the necessary tools to be successful. Right. Whether that's using, Thurman Thomas and Ricky Waters when they were here. I got Devin Hester who lives around the corner. All these guys, they more than well. And when it comes to baseball, the same thing. Lil Thurman calls me all the time. Right. Trying to get kids to be, I live my dream. It's now my turn to give back and help these kids live there. But when it comes to my kids, they compare me and I just go, it ain't fair. Because one of the parents was like, what did he say? They were talking, him and a coach, and coach goes, well, how come he doesn't play baseball? And he goes, well, he's not his dad. And so I happened to walk by. I said, well, tell me 5 people who are. And I said, I'll wait. And he couldn't because he was like, because, it's unfair expectations that we put on these kids all the time. And whether it's my kids or any other kid, some of these kids want to play football, basketball, baseball. They want to be out there with their friends. Some know that they may not turn pro and want to do other things. Some kids were like, you know what? I'm just doing this to go to get my degree. Right.
Get a free education. That was the thing for me, Ken, is that I have a son and he went totally away. He didn't play sports because every time he dropped the pass, they said, well, your dad would have caught that, or your uncle would have caught that, and he didn't want that. He just got, and I let my kids have their own life. I really tried to, if I showed up, I tried to stay in the back, but they would inevitably find out who I was. And it's like, that's your dad? Well, why aren't you better? And he was just like, you know what, Dad, I don't want to do it. I just want to, go to school, go to college, get a degree, and live my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's bad because some of the people that are doing this are people who are, number one, jealous and frustrated ball players who've never had an opportunity to be successful. Right. And the only person they can take it out on is your kid. And I'm like, I look at people like that, like, man, you up there dogging a 12-year-old? And I'm like, and so I do, like, the one thing about me is, like, when my kids play baseball, I'd be down the right field line, 340 feet away, tucked around the corner. And I had a lady come up to me one time. Was like, hey, how come you're not coaching? I said, well, number one, I'm underqualified for this position. Just trying to make it easy. Like, I'm really underqualified for this. And she was like, I just think it's a waste of talent. And then I got mad because I was like, hold on, you're just not going to say that. You're just not going to do that to me. And I did tell her that her kid was terrible. But it wasn't like I was trying to be mean. It was just like, hey, I'm a normal dad, just want to watch his son play. I'm out here because I know who I am, but I don't want to add to all the pressure of all the parents looking at me looking at him. I said, he just wants to play and run around and be with his friends. I said, man, that's all this stuff is. I said, are we trying to build national championships at age 12? Or are we trying to get these kids to build confidence to be young adults in this world? So
did it make you nervous when your dad came to watch you play? Because for me, when my brother came, I was going to turn it out. Basketball, I was going to drop 30 or 40. And on track and field, I was going to have my best days. But my sister, I couldn't perform in front of my sister because all of her friends had told her, Libby, you need to go see your brother. Your brother had this many points, dunked on everybody. And the moment I saw her, airball city, turnover city, I just couldn't perform it. Did it make you nervous performing in front of your dad?
Okay. Yes. Because he wasn't there, all the time. My dad's working on Saturday, So when he did show up, I remember my senior year, Atlanta was in town, and he was playing the Reds, and he was with Atlanta, and he come see me play. The first two at bats, I'm 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. So after the game, I get in the car, drive down there to see him. He was like, "Hey, how'd you do?" I said, 3 for 5, 2 home runs and a double. He was like, "You can't do that in front of me." So my first actual hit with him there was in the instruction league, my first professional hit. He was in left center behind the fence in an RV. And I knew the RV because, I was at my house all my life. So I finally get a hit, and he slides the window up and yells at me, "Was that so bad?" And then closes it. But for years he would say, "Hey man, just pretend I'm your mom." Because when my mom came, it was showtime. Dad show up. I had one of my high school coaches say, "Look, don't even come visit. He can't hit in front of you."
So you tell your dad at 14, I want to be a baseball player. And he give you, obviously, you bless you with ability, but he provides the tools and the instructions that you need. You get to your senior year. Did you know you were going to be the #1 overall selection in the draft?
I knew in December that I was close.
Right.
Bobby Tolan, who's a friend of the family, came up and flew into town. We were in Cincinnati, and he's walking out the house. He goes, "Well, we're thinking about drafting you #1." And I said, "Who?" He said, "Seattle." And I happened to look at my dad. I said, "Dad, where is Seattle?" Because he was like, because you don't go nowhere as a kid, so you're like, okay. He played for the Yankees. He played for Atlanta. He played for Cincinnati. That's as far as my region went. And we went to Disney World in Tampa and Fort Lauderdale. Yeah. That's it. That was our spring training. And that was anywhere else. I was like, I had no idea. So I had to look up on the map, and we got some things done. And 2 days before the draft, they started really calling and saying, "Hey, we're thinking about taking you #1. Are you going to sign?" And my dad looked at me and he said, "Hey, you can go #1, or the Pirates are going to take you, the Braves are going to take you, and Cincinnati's going to take you." And I looked at him and said, "I want to go #1.
Right.
And he says, "Why is that?" I said, "Because not everybody can say they went 1.
Right.
They can say they was a first round pick, but they can't say they was 1 of 1.
Right.
And he said, "Okay." And from that point on, 2 days before the draft, we signed the next day. And then we had the actual draft, and then I graduated. No, my brother graduated from high school. I graduated from high school, excuse me. I graduated high school, and then I was down in Atlanta for a couple days, and Willie Stargell helped me out with my footwork.
Right.
And everybody thinks that Willie Stargell was a first baseman, but he played outfield. Right. So he's like, "Come on, young buck," and he took me out in the outfield for like an hour and a half. With no baseballs. All we did was work on footwork. At 17, you kind of mad. You like, "Come on, can I get some balls thrown at me?" He was like, "Nah, we're going to work on only footwork." And that's what really helped me out. My minor league is, having the guys, around me that were like, "Hey, this is the way you're supposed to do things. This is the way, And then when I got to the big leagues, I was 19, so you couldn't go out, so you had to be stuck in, So by the time I turned 21, the novelty of being in the big leagues and all the other stuff that go on, it was gone.
What was it like playing with your dad? because I don't know if anybody else is probably, I know LeBron wants to be able to play with his son, LeBron Jr., but I'm not so sure that we're ever going to see what you and your father accomplished again.
He actually called me. He said, hey, the Mariners want me. And he said, is it okay with you? He said, this is your team. And I was like, hell yeah. So, you know, and he gets there. We do the press conference. We go down there. And as we're riding the elevator, he goes, now, you know, we got a bet. I was like, what's that? He goes, whoever gets the first hit, the other one got to pay lunch. I was like, deal. But the other person get a chance to tie. So finally, I see the lineup card. He batting second, I'm batting third. So we're walking out to the field. I said, you know what? For 17 years, you protected me. Right now, I get to protect you. And I kept going. He starts laughing. So we get up he's on the on-deck circle. He gets up, and then I come up there. And I yell, get a hit, Dad. And I turn around, and my entire dugout is laughing. Because, you know, as we get older, gray beard, fossil, old man, you know, all this, you know, right. Pops. Yeah. But for somebody to say, hey, get a hit, Dad, and actually mean it, right. They were shocked. I was like, that's my dad. I'm like, but I learned how to actually hit watching him, because how he set up pitchers, what he did. It actually, you know, if you look at it, I hit 264. I ended up hitting 300 the second year, and I hit 327 my third year, which I was third in the batting title behind Julio Franco and Wade Boggs.
Right.
But I got a chance to learn how to hit just watching them. And sometimes, you know, and now we look at it, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in your sport, they sat behind somebody who was a monster.
Yes.
And learn. And it's the same thing. I got to see somebody who I look like perform right in front of me.
How long did your mom and dad pay your bills after you became the #1 draft pick? Did they stop that immediately?
What? What you mean immediately? As of June 2nd, 1987, those bills have been cut off. Actually, what's funny is, like, I came home from my rookie year. And I'm sitting there, you know, coming home late. You know, all my friends, you know, they in college, so they got weird hours. So I'm coming home at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Mom worried about me. Dad over there like this. You know how dads are sometimes. So he finally comes and says, hey, man, I'm going to just let you know your mom's worried about you. You can't just be coming in at this type of night. You know, right. Either you stay out or you know.
You be home at midnight.
Right. Or if you want to be the man, you're going to pay some of these bills. So he gave me he had me go down there, and he drafted a contract that I would pay $200 a month. I'm like, I'm arguing. I ain't paying $200 at my own house. He was like, then you don't live here. You find your own place. So I paid him. But knowing I knew the chain of command. So right. I gave it to him. He gave it to Mom. Mom gave it back to me. I know how this works.
Right. So once you decided that you were going to play baseball, nothing else mattered, because you said you came from a football family. Did you not want to play football after that point, or you just devoted all your time to baseball?
No, I just didn't want to get hit. I didn't want to get hit no more. I'm like, hey, come on.
Well, you could have been a defensive player. You could have been a DB.
Yeah, okay. So remember Vinnie Clark from Ohio State and Carlos Snow?
Yeah.
We all played Little League Pop Warner together. Vinnie and I were both safeties. Vinnie always wanted to blitz, leave me out there by myself. He said, you got the good hands. But no, we all, you know, we're little kids and things like that. But no, my brother, he wanted to play football. And you know, I looked at him and said, more power to you. All my friends want to play football. I was like, and my dad also said, you know, longevity and things like that. So, you know, I listened to him, even though, you know, as a, you know.
It's hard listening to your dad when you're growing up. I mean, if you look back on it, like, you know what, he gave me some really sound advice. But at the time that he's giving you that advice, you're like, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I did that. And he just looked at me like I was crazy. But, what's funny is like in a couple weeks, we're going on a hunting trip.
Right.
And, this is his bucket list thing. He's like, dude, I want to go hunting. I'm like, all right. So now I got to set up everything, and it's going to
Are you a
actually be
hunter?
Look, I end up taking my gun hiking. You know what? I'm just on like a nature walk for like
Right.
3 days, 4 days. What's funny is he wanted, his boys. He's like, hey, we're going hunting. I was like 9, and he took us to a pheasant farm in like Gallup Police, Ohio.
Right.
We shot like $1,300 worth of birds. Well, he didn't have $1,300 worth of cash on him. So he was over there looking at it, like, y'all just shooting up everything. We was like, you said go hunting. But when you 9 and 7, but you want to be out with dad, and he
Right.
allowed that. And he's like, hey, we're gonna teach you everything. And that was the one thing is I tell my family, don't be a what if. The only thing you can't do is quit.
Right.
If you start it, then you can't quit. That year, no matter what, if the coach don't like you, you don't like the coach, because some people are not gonna like you for you.
Right.
Some people are gonna not like you for me.
Right.
But it is what it is. And my kids, that's the thing about it. And I know that you've gone through it, is that our kids have to grow up faster because of what we did than anybody else. And it's sad because, and then they go, well, he's spoiled. No, I see what happens outside these walls, and I still want him to be a kid. And so we have to balance it out because this world is not fair. And so it's our job to try to balance things out for him.
When you look at all the father-son combinations in all the sports, be it Steph Curry and his father Dale, you look at the Boones, you look at the Lews, the Earnhardts, the Winslow Jr. and Sr., the Matthews. Where does the Griffeys, Sr. and Jr. rank on the all-time iconic father-son duo? The Mannings?
We never. That's for somebody else to decide. We don't talk about those things. We don't never compare ourselves to everybody else, and because like for me, I have a hard time, and I know I see you and Skip go at it all the time about the GOAT and who this and who that.
Yeah.
And so we have how many home runs would Willie Mays hit if he didn't get knocked down? How many home runs would Hank Aaron hit with the travel that we have now? So when I can't compare eras because I couldn't put myself in their situation, but I can just imagine what it would be like if they came here.
Right.
Because at the time, I mean, you look at 25 years, 26 years, them dudes was balling, and they didn't take, winters off. I mean, they had to barnstorm. So they played constantly, all year round, where, we got 4 months off if we don't make the playoffs. So I look at it as, who's the greatest player in their era. And because it's so hard to do. I mean, basketball, the hand check, the this, the that, the 3-point line, how many, people go, points. Oh, he's 1,000 points. Well, he didn't have a 3-pointer.
Right.
He got 36,000.
Right.
This guy has a 3-pointer, and now he got 33,000. So it's so hard to compare all that stuff for baseball. You have the dead ball era, the live ball era, the things like that.
The lowering of the pitching mound.
Yeah.
So is that why, because I'm listening that you talk and you said, well, my father and I, we never compared ourselves to any other father-son duos. I really never compared myself. Is that why you didn't get caught up in what transpired in the 90s, which is known as the steroid era? Because go ahead.
No, my dad was always saying, "Hey, you're not going to be the biggest. You're not going to be the strongest. You're not going to be the fastest. Just don't let nobody outwork you."
Right.
And that's it. So when it came down to, and when all that happened, I was the highest paid ball player.
Did you know it was happening? Did you know it was happening?
No, I would. I, like everybody else, like you see it on. I was like, huh? When they read the Mitchell report, and I was sitting there like, him. A good stiff wind and he could be out of the ballpark. He don't weigh nothing. But, it wasn't like you see these guys, in the middle of a locker room with a needle and,
Right.
in syringe. They did it behind closed doors. They, if you see a guy come in and he was 175 one year and he 225 the next year, you could say, okay.
But what about the guy that was hitting 15 home runs and all of a sudden hitting 50 and 60 home runs? That didn't set up a red flag?
No, because for me, I was always taught, worry about yourself.
Okay.
You keep yourself right. That's the only thing you can control. Is when
Right.
you look in that mirror, that's who you can control. I can't control what everybody else does.
Right.
My thing is when I look at it and people say, you got cheated, I'll be like, it is what it is. I let it go. Because I don't want to go into a big old debate about it. But
do it make you upset?
No, because it used to. But now people see that, okay, now look what he did. And
Right.
that's who I want my kids to be like.
Right.
That's what I wanted. And that's what I wanted. Is I can go in there and I can go anywhere. I can do a lot of things, but I don't have to worry about somebody go, And
that was the thing. There was never any suspicion. Nobody ever had any suspicion. It was never in the Mitchell report. Nobody even said, even someone that might have had a grudge that wanted to tarnish your image has never said anything about Ken Griffey being linked to steroids, HGH, nothing.
No. Now, when I retired, all my friends say, hey, now you could use it for cosmetic purposes only. I was like, what? They were like, hey. But it's one of those things, like if you're 25 years old, think about this. You're 25 years old. You have 2 kids. You're up and down AAA big leagues. This $100 vial of steroids could keep you in the big leagues to make $500,000. What do you think people are going to do? And when I pose it to people like that, they go, oh, I never thought about it that way. But what happens is so many people listen to, the guys from Congress, when they start jumping in on baseball and stuff like that, their grandfathers are telling them that these were the best players in baseball. Now those records are being broken. And now they're in Congress trying to,
legislate.
Put their name out. And I'm like, hey, I ain't part of this, even though I'm part of it.
Right.
But having a dad who was a all-star, not a superstar, it helps. If you're a superstar, then you gotta live up to that.
Right.
But my dad was a homebody. Become 6 brothers. It's gonna be 5 brothers, 1 sister. My mom is 5 sisters, 2 brothers, and they live catty corner on a T street from each other. So when I got in trouble at my grandmama's house, I went to my other grandmama's house, which was right across the street. But, coming from a small town, it helps because, it's not like the big city, you got to be larger than life.
Right.
My family came from a steel mill. So I understood hard work. And I understood that my grandfather, when, he was talking about his pension being like $600 a month. And this is what we're going to have to live off of. So I understood the value of money, because I'd be like, hey, can I go get this Topps bubble gum? And all I really wanted was the bubble gum inside the actual thing. He was like, no, we're going to go through the cards. You're going to know who they are.
Right.
And things like that. But no, there was no pressure on me about doing steroids.
Are you sad that some of the guys that you were close with resorted to that? Do you feel cheated?
No, because now I don't have that issue. People, well, he used to do this. He used to be the best. We thought he was better. Now they're like, well, his numbers show that as he got older, he wasn't as quick.
Right.
He didn't do certain things. Now, that's all I can ask is, my numbers are based on, my age, what people do on in their age group.
Right.
When you're 22, 23, you bounce back like that. You're 37, 38, you might want to take a couple days off.
So how should we judge this era? Should the guys that put up phenomenal numbers, should they go to the Hall of Fame? Should there be an asterisk by any of those numbers? How should we judge this number? Because numbers are more important in baseball than any other sport.
Right, but we don't vote. Like, member of the Hall of Fame, me being personal, I don't vote. Do I think that there's guys who are Hall of Famers before some of the accusations were yes, absolutely.
Right.
But again, that's not me. That's, somebody else.
Right.
That's for them to decide.
When you came up for enshrinement, you received 99.32% of the vote. And I remember listening to you talk, and they asked you, were you upset that you weren't unanimous? You're like, no, I'm good with that. But deep down, you should have been unanimous. What? You should have been the first unanimous player selected to Cooperstown. What was a little bit? I mean, come on, Griffey. Was there a little bit?
Yeah, I was a little hot. Okay, I was really hot. You telling me, and people don't really understand the voting. You're telling me you get 10 votes, and I'm not one of the top 10 players of that year. That's how it works.
What? So somebody left you completely off the ballot?
Yes.
Come on, man.
That's how it works.
Hold up. And that person, he or she is still allowed to vote?
Don't know about that now.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know who they are, but that's how it is. You get 10 votes, and it ain't like a first, second, third play. You pick out 10 people. That's why they go by percentages.
Right.
He got 85% of the vote. Now he didn't get 85%
you get to pick out.
of the first.
So in other words, there might be 50 people, like 25 people on the card. You pick any 10 you want.
Yep.
And somebody left Ken Griffey Jr. with those numbers, with those accolades, completely off the ballot.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That should have been upsetting.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your swing. Many said it's the sweetest swing, it's the greatest swing, it's the smoothest swing in MLB history. Do you feel, let's just say we went out there to batting practice and I gave you 10 pitches. How many could you hit over the fence?
Right now?
Yeah.
7.
What?
I still take batting practice.
So just in case they have an old timers game and somebody.
No, I want to be caught slipping. No, but but it's a lot. Like for my sport, going into the cage, showing kids how to hit, still doing it.
Right.
It's now I may not get 7, I get 6. I put that out there. I get 6. But you still have to do it.
Right.
For you teaching a kid, blocking technique, you could show them that all day.
Right.
You don't want to run up against these boys now. No, but see, I don't have to. I'm on a pitching machine. It's nice and 65, 72 miles an hour. It's coming in, belt high. I ain't got to worry about that. I ain't got to worry about somebody snapping them off on my ankles.
Give me some of the toughest pitchers that you faced that you like, you know what? If I'm not on my A game today, he can embarrass me.
Pedro Martinez.
He had electric stuff?
Well, you see what
I just remember the 99 All-Star, if I'm not mistaken, the 99 All-Star game.
Yeah, that's what I was like, ooh. Look, I went back to Seattle talking about, hey, can we get like 5 of him? They were looking at me like I was crazy. I was like, just, okay, give me 3. But to watch, when you have Randy Johnson, you
played with Randy.
Yeah. Yeah, Randy was fun, but Randy was my locker partner. So Randy would be moody, but not be moody. He would only be moody if the media came up to him.
Right.
But everybody else come up to him. I mean, you got guys wrestling before the game. He in there wrestling too. Then he go out and throw 7 shutout. But, you have guys like that you go, man, it's like a day off out here.
Right.
Get
because
1 or 2
you look
fly
at
balls.
Pedro wasn't that. You look at Randy Johnson, he's 6'10", and you look at Roger probably weighed 230, 235. But you look at Pedro, you're like small guy, and he's like jumping out of his shoes.
Right, but this sport isn't about size; it's about heart.
Right.
And I know your sport is too. I mean, if you ain't got no heart, it don't matter what they say.
How big you know.
Right. Yeah. We say body by Tarzan and swing like Jane.
Yes.
You know, but you know, for us, you know, this guy is, you know, 5'10", 145, just coming in at you. You got 6'10", you know, 220 coming from the left side.
Right.
You know, and you got guys in between. You know, you're not a number one pitcher because you ain't challenging nobody. You're not a number one pitcher because you ain't embarrassed nobody.
Right.
Your job is to go out and embarrass. That's why you're the number one. You're the first game of the year on every team. And that's your job, is to get that victory for that day.
You had some of the great commercials. You ran for president in 1996. I don't know if the campaign is never iffy, if it's Griffey. I mean, the shoe. I mean, I don't think people realize I'm old enough to remember. You and I are very close in age. I think we might be the same age. Do you look back and like, man, I did that. I had that. I was like that.
Yeah, I have to remind my youngest, who said, who was 18, was like, Dad, tell me how was it playing back in the day? And I was looking at him like, man, do you understand that I was still playing when you was born? He was like, I don't remember. So you know, something will happen on TV and they'll show a commercial, and he'll look at me and he'll look, and when I think when Little Big League came on,
right,
you know, and we all knew except him. You know, this movie was shot, you know, 9 years before he was born. So, and then you say, so it was like 2008, we were watching the movie, and I come walking to the plate, and he's like 6 years old. He looked at TV, and he looked at me. He looked back to TV. He shook his head. He was like, I was like, yeah, I did a movie too. He was like, oh, but you know, so, because like I said, man, we very seldom talk about accomplishments, because you know, I live my dream of being a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
For me, it's time that I give back and try to get every kid, you know, no matter what color they are, a chance to live their dream, because that's all it's about. You know, I tell everybody, being, you know, I turn 51 next month. You know, my time has passed.
Right.
I want to be in the barbershop. Man, I remember him when he was playing. I remember him when he was in Little League. And people, you know, I said, that's my goal, is to talk about kids like as they was mine, because I still talk about mine. But, you know, I want kids to live their dream because I've lived mine.
You had a signature shoe, which is a rarity for a baseball player. That's normally reserved for basketball players. Do you show your son, like, look here, look what your dad had? Your dad had a signature. Now that's bad.
No, what I did is I have Nike make up my shoe in a football shoe, so he got to wear it.
Oh,
yeah. So he has the only, you know, football shoe with the Swingman logo on it.
Right. If I said, okay, Ken Griffey Jr., I want to know who is the Ken Griffey Jr. of football, the Ken Griffey Jr. of basketball. Who would you say?
Football? Are we talking about ever?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good question. Because I wouldn't compare myself to anybody in football and basketball.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't think anybody is comparable? I mean, who has a sweet shot or a throwing motion that you like, okay, that's the equivalent of my swing?
Ray Allen shooting.
Okay.
And I would say Tony Dorsett.
Tony D?
Yeah. Only because he's my favorite football player.
I would have never guessed. So how you, okay, you said you grew up very close, and I think he's from Aliquippa.
Yep. He went to high school with my uncle.
So were you a Cowboy fan or a Steeler fan being from that close in PA?
I'm a Cowboy fan.
Oh man, come on, man!
I'm an old school Cowboy fan.
Okay. So you're not like these delusional fans that think they go win the Super Bowl every year, huh? Or you still believe that?
I'm an old school Cowboy fan. What's funny at my house is my wife she's from Seattle, so she a diehard Seahawk fan.
Okay.
Okay. Trey, from us being here in Florida, all he heard was about the U. It's all about the U. So he heard Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, Willis McGahee. So he liked the Ravens.
Okay.
My youngest, when he was a starting quarterback, he didn't have a haircut till he was 9. So he had 14 inches of hair. Well, name me a left-handed quarterback that had braids. Mike Vick. So he was a Mike Vick fan. And wherever Mike went, and I'll tell you a story about that in a second. And then my daughter is a Carolina Panther fan.
How?
Steve Smith. Steve Smith is her favorite player.
Okay.
Look, and I did something that I've never done. I actually called Carolina, called their player personnel and said, look, man, I've never done this. My daughter is a diehard fan. Actually, he was with the Ravens at the time.
Right.
And I said, look, I will trade him jerseys because I need one for my daughter. Like I have pictures of her when she is like 12 with the Carolina 89 jersey on. And she is now like she is in college. And when that game come on and he playing, that jersey go on. Now, my little guy, he was 9 years old. They were playing in Jacksonville. So I got a suite. Said, all right, we're going to go watch him play. So we get to the suite. They said, hey, blah, blah, blah. Mike runs on the field. We there early. Mike runs out on the field for warm-ups. My youngest runs on the field with him and sits on the 20-yard line watching him warm up. I'm like, yo, Tevin, come on back. And he's like, that's Mike Vick. I was like, okay. And even security was like, yeah, he ain't bothered nobody. And Mike ain't said that. Just let him go. He Indian style, watch him. And then at the end, Mike ran over and talked to him, said hi to him. And at the end of the game, he said, at the end of the game, come down. So at the end of the game, and they lost that game. So we was like trying to get out. You know, football a little different than baseball. We got another game tomorrow.
Right.
Y'all got a whole week to.
They trying to get us on the bus, get to the airport, and get back on the plane and get home.
Yeah. So we was like, all right. He said, no. I got a phone call. Come down there. So we went there. He gave him the game jersey. And he put it on and fell asleep in the car. Now, we got a 2-hour drive back to Orlando. He dead asleep in the car with his jersey on. I'm like, hey, we got to take the jersey off. He's like, you going to frame it? I'm like, we going to frame it. Okay, we going to frame it. And to this day, it is in his room, and he is a freshman in college. Mama said he can't take that jersey. He could take a picture of the jersey, but that jersey is in that room.
Mama said he can't take that picture. So I don't know if you've ever done this, but if I said, okay, name the 5 greatest baseball players of all time, any era, pictures included. Okay, you know what? Let's leave pictures out. I don't really care. All they do is pay. Give me your 5 the 5 greatest baseball players.
Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson, Ricky Henderson, and one guy, Bob Gibson, as a pitcher.
That's a very, Willie Mays, I understand. Hank, got you. I'm surprised you said Ricky.
The all-time run leader?
He was different. I heard a story about Ricky, and it makes me laugh because I can just imagine, had I been there to actually witness some of the things that I've heard, and I'm crying laughing.
Yeah, my dad played with him for a few years. So, yeah, some of those stories are true.
You got Jackie Robinson for what he did?
Yes, number one, rightfully so. I mean, if it wasn't for him, and what's funny is out of all the pictures in my house, he's the one that's prominently displayed in my office.
Right.
Because of what he did and what he means to so many people of color. And I think people, and not so much, what he did for us as people, Black people, but he allowed to let other countries come here and play this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's different in football because you don't see very many Europeans
No, it's basically an
but
American
for
sport.
us, right? For us, we got guys from South Africa,
Yeah,
Japan, Korea,
yeah. A lot
so
of
it's
Dominican guys. You got Cubans. You
mhm.
got South Korea.
But without him, who knows? And my thing is, if he didn't do it, when would be the next Jackie Robinson?
Right.
It may have been after my dad might have played, so I may have not got the opportunity.
And you had to have the right temperament because the things that were said, the things that were done, you had the right. Everybody couldn't be Jackie Robinson Griffey.
No. And I say that all the time. I'm like, I don't know if I could be him. I gotta say something.
Exactly. You had to bite your tongue a lot.
Right, but I got a chance to sit there and talk to Rachel and Sharon and that's why part of my shoe collection does have a Jackie Robinson shoe.
Right.
Because of what he did. And I got one coming out next year. I can't show it to you, but I got one coming out.
Well, I'll just wait on that. Hopefully, I'll get the sneaker version.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a sneaker version.
Okay. Well, okay.
Because I don't play no more. I can't be out here sliding. My wife ain't gonna let me go on this towel on my spikes.
Talk about the history of baseball with the black players and why have we seen the decline of black players playing in the majors?
Well, number one, if you get drafted in football and football and basketball, you go straight to the show.
Correct.
And in baseball, you get drafted, you go to the minor leagues, and it could be 6 years.
Right.
Before you get there. And I think that's one of the differences. Plus, the other difference is the actual cost. The showcases and this and that, trying to get the exposure for these young kids. It's quite expensive. And we need to somehow manage a rate where some of these kids can come.
Right.
We got to figure out something, because if you can run, hit, and throw, they will find you. But you got to be that guy. And, and also like the other economic standards, economic problem we have is you can go to Dominican or Venezuela and you can get 5 or 6 guys for what it would cost an American. But it's a two-way street. We got to get guys who want to play. We got to get guys that look like us as coaches on all levels. So I think, when we get that, I think things will change. Because I remember my dad had 19%. I think that was the all-time high, and now it's like 6.72.
Right. You mentioned the instant gratification. I get drafted, I'm going to the NFL. If I get drafted, I'm going to the NBA. And you mentioned, okay, you get drafted, you're going down to the minors. And it's going to be what you say, a minimum of what, a year, 2 years at the minimum?
Yeah. And even if you're a monster, it's a minimum. I mean, you'll have
how long did you stay in the minors?
Year and a half.
So, but that's the thing though. So you talk about you are, number 1 overall draft pick, goes down for a year and a half. What about the guy that's not you and he spends 5 years, or he's a career minor leaguer, but he got drafted to play in the majors?
Yeah. I tell kids, hey, the hardest part about being here is getting drafted. Obviously somebody wanted you.
Right.
So you get drafted. So from that point on, like I tell people, just relax and go play. Because just like every sport, it's a numbers game.
Right.
Somebody get hurt, you get called in.
Right.
So the hardest, I can't just show up off the street, say, hey coach, I'm here. I'm about third. I'm ready.
Right.
They're gonna look at you like you're crazy. So, most kids put a lot of pressure after they get drafted by the slot that they're in. There's a little bit of jealousy because you're the new guy, you're the new first pick. But you go through that, the learning curve and the growing pains. I was MVP of the league in my first year, but not MVP of my team. That's unheard of, but that happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the feeling. So let me ask you a question. When you look at these outfielders now, and you play center field, Mookie Betts plays some center, but mainly he's a right fielder. You look at Mike Trout. Are there any guys currently that playing that remind you like you like to watch?
I watch Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Jackie Bradley, Trout, Harper. I'll be over there. That for me, that Dodger lineup, is a monster. So when they on TV, then you got, the Braves pitching staff, the young pitchers. I mean, anytime that you have like a matchup like that,
right?
A good solid team and a pitching staff that's young, man, it's exciting. And for me, that's what it's about. They got great young players on both sides. Mm-hmm. Now you're looking at, the Twins but the Rays who've been solid. So this is a very interesting World Series because, you got a team that can score a whole bunch of runs in a flash. And then you got a team that's not going to hit very many home runs, but they're going to make the right plays. And right. So, in baseball, it's a chess match, how can I keep my opponent off balance? And right. So this is, a pretty good matchup, but even though people don't look at it, you have the bigger known team is the Dodgers and you have the little known team, like who are the Rays? Who are these guys? And people are like, I can't name two people on the Rays. I was like, yeah, but guess where they at? They playing in the big game. Right. And they're gonna be a force to reckon with over the next couple of years because they got good, solid young talent.
And unfortunately, they're not able to hold on to them because they're not going to be able to pay them what the big market teams can pay.
I think something's gonna happen.
You think something's gonna happen?
Well, from what I hear, because I live in Florida, that they've already been told that they're gonna move. Now, I don't know if that's for sure or not. Right. But it's crazy just to hear that the mayor the mayor of their city is like, look, we need that land, so y'all gonna have to find some place to go in like five years. So I think over the next 5 years, something's gonna happen.
Griffey, did you look at these salaries and you see guys getting $350? Did you ever think somebody would make $400 million?
I keep complaining to my parents.
Why couldn't you wait 10 years?
I tell them all the time. They're like, Mom, what happened? And I've been looking at and my dad walk in, I shake my head. And see, being a November baby, I was Valentine's baby. So I was like looking at them like, really?
So, I mean, did you ever, I mean, look, you were at once, I mean, you took less money to go to Cincinnati because you wanted to go play for the Reds. You wanted to play the team your dad played for. So but you made good money. But to see these salaries, $350s, and the pitchers making $327, and you see an outfielder making almost $500 million. Did you ever think the salary would get here?
No, I didn't ever think the salaries get to mine. I think my dad made $1 million I think it's his high. So that's what I thought, that's what it's going to be. And, even my rookie year, I was $68,500. That was the rookie minimum. And then I went to 180 and then 535 and then 2 million. But by the time I got to 2 million, I felt like
you were underpaid?
Ice-T. Look, no, when I got like Ice-T, what did he say? 19 got a bench, 21 I retire. Right. But no, I was just like, I never thought about, the salaries and what could be. But when I retired, I did tell my parents, if y'all had just waited, I could have got you that new car that you wanted. They were going to be like, knowing they go get it anyway, knowing they got it anyway. Right. But
are you surprised your son chose football over baseball?
No, it's his decision. It's not my decision. It's not my life. Like I always said, I don't want my kids to be a what if. Yes. What if I'd have played football? What if, you forced me to do this? Now what if? And I don't want them to ever come at me and resent me for making the decision for them.
Griffey, I said the same thing. I told my kids, I said, I want you to do what you want to do because I don't want when you get to be 30 years old, you say, Dad, I only did this because you wanted me to. No. I want you to do what you want to do because I did what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the NFL and take care of my family. So what do you want to do? Whatever it is, I don't care. Yeah. Now, let me tell you what, I'm not going to push you in any particular direction, but once you start walking in that direction, I'm going to push you.
Yeah. Oh, no, we got that. Yeah, we got that. I mean, you know, my thing is you got to be the best at what you do,
Right.
whatever that is. And like when my daughter graduated from college, she had a couple knee injuries, before she went to college. She made it through, and I told her I'd give her a year off. Well, that year became 2 years.
Uh-oh.
And she get ready. No, she get ready to have a job next. Actually, starts next week. But the funny thing about that is, I came down and I was like, "Hey, it's a year." She was like, "Well, I filed an extension." I was like, "Huh?" She was like, "It's just like taxes, Dad."
Like,
And my
God, yeah,
boys, yeah, I just filed it. You don't have to wait for the return, a reply. So I just looked at her. My boys looked at me like that wouldn't happen if that was me. I was like, "Yeah, you probably right. I'd have just told you to get out." But people, they look at, number one, college athletes and think, "Oh man, it's great. They're college athletes." I said they work harder than anybody I know.
Yes.
They got to go school. They got to get their lift in
They
and
got
do
to
everything
get the
else.
curriculum and play a sport.
Right. And so when, uh, Trey not getting drafted, going to the Colts, going to Miami, going to the Steelers, not didn't know if he wanted to get picked up, and had a couple calls, and he said, "Hey, I just want to be." And I said, "All right, you got a year. You got a year to just chill and figure out what you want to do in life. You're still young enough to figure it out." And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and I'm looking at him, he looking at me, because two
He got
grown
an
men
extension.
sometimes can't. No, two grown men sometimes can't be in the same house.
Tell me about it.
But he's they're all good kids. I have no problems with them. If I said, "Hey man, here's what your chores are. You got to make sure the garbage is out. You got to make sure this is out. Blah blah blah. Make sure your mom all right." And I said, main thing, it ain't about me. Just make sure mom's cool.
Right.
Whatever mom wants, just get it done. And they've been behind it. You just watch the growth of kids, and I've had more people compliment me on, the development of my kids than me playing sports. And I said that's more important to me than
Yes.
what I did off the field. I mean, on the field.
When your youngest son is HBC, he's at FAMU. What's that been? Has he talked to you? What's that been like for him?
He's 3 hours away on a drive.
Okay.
He been home every other weekend.
What?
Mama said he can come home every other weekend. There's no football.
Right.
If there was
right.
football, look.
He'd be traveling, he'd be playing.
Right. Right now ain't no football. He loves it. I mean, it's been a blessing inside. We went to we go to a predominantly Black high school.
Okay.
My kids graduated from public school.
Okay.
Um,
Was that important for you to have them go to a public school?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because it's just people, you meet all kind of people.
Right.
It ain't that, just because your daddy has a little money, there's people who got a lot more money than your daddy. And that was the one thing that we said is that, hey man, there are different nationalities, different religions, different people, and you got to deal with that in the real world.
Correct.
So, the first couple years, I think till 4th grade, they went to a school downtown. Then they went to a charter school for 2 years. Then they got from the 6th grade on, they was in public school. And, you could see, you come home and, they got a couple bumps and bruises, people
Right.
talking about them, people talking about their daddy, couple fights here and there, but, nothing to really, write home about. I get the couple days, hey, by the way, your son choked somebody out in school. Huh?
So how protective are you? Or how protective are the kids of you? Like, my kids don't follow me on social media, and they are very, very reluctant to tell you who their father is because they don't want someone to treat them any kind of way, either good or bad, because of their dad.
Well, they follow me, and I'll tell you that story real quick. Is that when I started getting on Instagram, I had 4 followers, and 3 of them was at my house, and they was teasing me. Then I got all of a sudden I got 10,000. They was like, "Hey, Dad, you gonna shout me out?" I was like, "What do you mean?" But it's very important for them. They are very protective of me growing up. You know, they still are. You know, at first they were like, why is somebody talking to him? Why is it? Because they didn't really understand. And then all of a sudden they were like, why are you bothering him? You know,
exactly.
So, yeah.
That's my oldest. My oldest daughter is the exact same way, because people would come up while we're eating or having, you know, we're out, and she's like, that's my daddy. He not no autographs.
Yeah, no, my kids do that. You know, they still do it. And they 26 and 25.
I saw the documentary. I think it was a documentary where you said you would never play for the Yankees. Was that in the heat of the moment, or you really meant that? Because something will you tell the story?
I was in a tunnel, and it's a walkway that separates the wives lounge, which was upstairs, or the waiting lounge, wives lounge, and downstairs. And it was a tunnel, probably about 75 feet. And we played pickle there. And the Yankees were getting their butts whooped. And there's probably, you had Randolph's kids, Torbort's kid, you know, my brother and I. So there's probably about 10 to 12 of us. And he walked up to my dad and said, get your blank kids out of here. So my dad, after the game, brought us home and said, hey, they can't come there. My mom said, oh, they're going back tomorrow. So we went back. You just ain't gonna do that. But overhearing that, and I'm 12 years old, you know, I'm 12, 13. Then I go to the ballpark early with my dad, and it's 1 o'clock. Ain't nobody there. 12:30, 1 o'clock. Ain't nobody there. I'm sitting in the dugout, and the guy says, hey, George don't want nobody in the dugout. Meanwhile, you got Craig Nettles' son taking ground balls at third base. And he looked at me. He said, pointed over there, and he said, just remember that. And that's all it took. So when you have an impressionable kid at that age, that every time, you know, they play that team, the only thing you can think of is how I'm going to beat them every single time. I mean, you look at my numbers, they're probably the best against any other team, because it wasn't because I got great friends who, you know, Jeter's a good friend of mine, you know, Jorge Posada, Mo, you know, Bernie, you know, all the old guys, you know, from the Dave Winfield, Ricky, you know, Roy Smiley, Willie Randolph, Big John Mayberry. I mean, right. All these guys, you know, Rick Sharon. I mean, all these guys were, you know, guys that I looked up to, and, you know, but once I saw the pinstripes with NY on it, I was like a different person. I was like, okay, here it is. We're going to go at it.
You are the first #1 overall draft pick to be selected to the Hall of Fame. Of all the ones, you're the first.
Ain't but two of us.
You and Chipper.
Yep.
I mean, do you find that, do you think that's odd? You like, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah, I did. When I found out, I thought I was like, and then, but you realize how many first picks don't make it.
Right.
You know, there's more 4th and 5th round draft choices in the big leagues than first round, things like that. You like, and I don't know if it's I know they have the talent, maybe a lack of focus sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I knew that I didn't want to be in the minor leagues.
Right.
And that was what was driving me. I don't want to be here. My daddy wasn't here. I only remember my dad being in the minor league, so I know that I didn't want to be there. Growing
up, did your dad have a fancy car? Did that motivate you? Because when my brother came back, my brother was got drafted in '88, and he had a Mercedes and he got BMW and Porsches. I'm like, I want that.
No. What's funny is we actually, on my dad's 26th birthday, which I was 6 years old, we got him a powder blue 10-speed bike. And that was his first bike. That was his first ever bike, and it was for Father's Day. He rode it down the driveway. He rode it back up, and he said, "Hey, you can ride it. It's yours." He goes, "But the fact that you thought of me is great," because he didn't. I remember having a green Toyota Celica with louvers on the back. And my mom had like a Mark V, a Cougar Mark V or something, a Lincoln Mark V, something like that.
Right.
That was her car. I remember all of a sudden my dad went to the Yankees, and a couple years later, my mom's driving a silver Spur with $100 pillows in the back, and my dad is driving a Mercedes. I was like, okay, but he, it wasn't, he was always taught, and I tell my kids all this. Yeah, your dad got a little money. Y'all ain't got no money.
Yeah, man, that's what I tell my kids all the time. I tell the people they're dating. I tell them my kids, I was like, hey, they ain't got no money. I got the money.
Yeah. Yeah, because now, having a girl and having a boy is a little different because, I'll be able to sugarcoat. I only have one rule at my house, that you can't get gas after 7 p.m. or before 7 p.m.
Right.
Before 7 a.m. So my girls, they be bringing stuff. I live 2 miles from a gas station. My girl brought home, it was 1 mile till empty. I was over there like, now you want me to go get you some gas? And they got 1 mile till empty, but it's 2 miles to the gas station. Got my butt in that car and drove over there, got her some gas. But that's just the way I am.
If that was Trey or Tammy, what would you told them?
I'd have told them I'll follow y'all.
So before we wrap up, Griff, what are you doing now?
Well, I own a couple car dealerships.
Okay.
In South Carolina and Florida. Work for Major League Baseball, both sides, the commissioner's office and the Players Association, doing joint ventures to help, kids get back into baseball, and play a little golf and try to stay out of people's way. I'm all right. I got your brother once.
You got it. Oh, he didn't tell me about that. He did not tell me.
Well, I tell you a quick story. Is we were at the Nike event and here in Orlando for the what do they call that thing? The golf PGA show.
Okay.
So I hit my first drive, and I've been playing golf all day. I hit the first drive. It's 249. He looks at me, and Suzanne Peterson said, "That's where I hit my ball." He turns around and says, "Oh, so now you just drive it as far as the LPGA player?" And I just looked at him like, "Do you know who I am?" So I hit the next one, 311. And then I said, "Was that better?" He was like, "Yeah, that's a little better, but you out there with me." I said, "All right." And then I looked at one of my boys. He was like, "Give it to him." So I hit the next one, 353. So for the next 45 minutes, your brother was in that simulator trying to hit it where I was hitting it at. I said, "Well, you don't pull nothing back there. You can't go out there." I said, "Man, all my life I've been swinging.
Right.
So I can turn it up when I have to." I said, "Now I ain't at, you as football players, y'all used to pushing people off of you.
Right.
I'm used to getting the head out and driving the ball."
Why are baseball players so good at golf? You look at Rick Rhoden, you look at some of the baseball players, you guys are great.
I think because we ain't got team meetings like y'all do.
You John Smoltz. The baseball players are.
Right, but they pitchers. They
don't count.
Because see, my number one swing, my number two swing wasn't gonna mess up my number one swing.
Right.
Yeah. So my baseball swing, I'd be like, okay, if we go out there and play golf, and I didn't really learn how to play really golf until after I retired.
Right.
Because I'd hit a big old slice. Because my baseball swing, that's what we gonna play with. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna groove that thing in. I'm not grooving my golf swing in. My golf swing don't pay no bills at the house.
Right.
And until now, it give me a little gas money from my boys, but right. it ain't paying the light bill.
Let's talk about some of the quarterbacks that came from a baseball background. You got Patrick Mahomes. His father was in the major leagues. Kyler Murray got drafted number 1 overall in football. He was the number 8 pick in the MLB draft. And Russell Wilson was a second baseman. What is it that you think translates so well from major league players to playing in the NFL?
I think decision making and being a student of the game. Mm-hmm. I think when you're a middle infielder or a pitcher, you're constantly thinking trying to get people out. You see that I always, I get on Pat about, I see that his athletic ability didn't come from your side of the family. It's always that fun stuff that we do, we just say that, but for us, when you see the next generation of guys that you play with, you feel like them, your kids,
Right.
You like, that's my boy. So when he come on TV, I'm right there. When Russell's on TV, I'm right there. So we have this thing that it ain't about us again. It's about the next generation. And when we see somebody that we know we played against, we want to see how they do. Because for us in baseball, we can look at the box score when they announce your name and you see the batting average, RBIs, home runs up there. We know how you doing.
Right.
So that's why we get to first base. They be like, "Hey, how's the family?" Everybody like, "Man, you talking about?" I be like, "Nah, we been asking about everything else. We never talk about baseball when they're at first base. Man, how the kids? How's Mandy? How's everybody?" Then all of a sudden, you still second. You got to do it all over again.
Right.
So that's what you get on third. They be like, "Hey, man, yeah, what's going on?" How? But that's the way we do things.
As a Hall of Fame baseball player, one of the greats of all time, how good was Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders because they were so exemplary in other sports?
Well, you still got Brian Jordan.
If they had just focused, if Prime had just focused on baseball, if Bo had just focused on baseball, how good could it have been?
Well, I think when you look at it, those two, you can't go wrong with either one. I think Bo was maybe a better baseball player than Deion.
Mm-hmm.
But Deion, football wise, is off the chart. But they are all-stars in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot of fun to watch. When you talk about can't miss TV, that's them.
Yeah.
That era right there, they'll be like, okay. And who is it to decide that you could play one sport? Who is it for you to decide? These kids came out and said, you know what, I want to play. Brian Jordan, you throw in there.
Yes.
And that's what I say, man. I didn't have to make up my mind till my senior year. You see now that these kids are making their mind up in the third grade. I want to be a baseball player.
Yeah.
Not understanding that you might be a football player.
Right.
You might be a lacrosse player. You might be a basketball player. You might grow 7 inches like AD did.
Right. I think I agree with you, Griffey. I think kids are coming specialized too early. I think playing basketball, playing football, running track, I think playing a lot of sports. And then once you get in high school, if you want to specialize then, but you build up a lot of hand-eye coordination from playing other things.
Well, I think, you look at basketball works on your footwork, football works on your football, and basketball works on your acceleration. Then you go back to, the toughness of football will help you in the physicality of basketball. I didn't run track because baseball and track season were together.
Yep.
But so I just played football and baseball. My brother played football, basketball, and ran a little track, but they knew that he was just there to run at the end of the year. But he didn't start there. But, like I said, man, my dad was like, hey, y'all gonna play everything. This is the way we're gonna do it. You can figure out that stuff later. But we're gonna do everything. And when my kids started, we started with motocross. My kids rode with James Stewart. So every year, Big James would, have, Kawasaki send a little bike for my kid. One day, James came over to me and was like, hey, man, let me talk to you. I was like, what? He was like, you think that I could borrow your daughter for about 2-3 months? I'm like, for what? She was like, I've been timing her, and she is like 6 seconds faster than Lil James at the same age, which means that she could be one of the greatest of all time. I was like, no, my daughter's not racing. She's out here having fun. But I didn't, I was
she might have been Danica Patrick.
Well, yeah, she do, because she get a couple speeding tickets. I'd be over looking at her like, really? But she got that big old foot like her mama. But no, it's so much, you know, like I said, man, we want every kid to do everything, experience everything. That's the thing. Exposure is the key for our generation and our people to excel. If we don't get no exposure, we stuck. But, you know, if we can have these kids get some exposure, and then this world will be better and we'll have no limits.
Griffey, I really appreciate it, bro. I know it was last
No
minute. I appreciate you giving me about 90 minutes of your time. I know you're busy, but I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Let me get those shoes too, size 13 when you get them.
13, I got you.
Okay. Because you're about a 13 also, aren't you?
I'm 11. See, I'm good. See them big old feet. See them right there? Them feet right there. I tell my kids, because my kids are 12 and 12 and a half. I say, see, I got better balance. Y'all got a whole lot of material that lay on the ground. I can get up off them things.
Bro, I appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I'll be in touch.
All right, take it easy.
Have a good one, man.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life.
You know what to do. Hit the subscribe button to become an official member of Club Shay Shay, where we always do something for two something.